Black screen, faint wind, a single whisper. Do you remember? A heartbeat begins, slow, deep. A lantern flickers on, revealing broken wood, moss, and something moving just out of frame. A voice speaks softly, tense, controlled, like someone uncovering something that should have stayed hidden. In every forgotten place, something still waits. Something buried. Something restless. And tonight, we dig it up. Wood creaks. Dirt shifts. A shadow passes behind the lantern. This is Forgotten Remains, where the dead don't stay dead, and the stories never stay buried. The lantern blows out. Silence. Then, one final whisper. Let's begin. They still say that on cold autumn nights, when the fog slides down Hollow Ridge like a living thing, you can hear the scraping, slow dragging, something pulled across old wooden floors far beneath the soil. Some swear it's the sound of her rocking chair. Others say it's the sound of bones. But the elders of Hollow Ridge know better. They know it's her, the widow, and no one climbs that hill after dark. This story begins with the last person foolish or desperate enough to try. The year was 1901, and the Appalachian mountains swallowed sunlight early in October, leaving whole valleys in a dusk that felt like the world's oldest secret. Elijah Boone trudged up the muddy ridge path with boots that were barely holding together, a satchel of letters banging at his side and a warning rattling in his skull like a loose nail. "Don't deliver mail up Widow's Hill after sundown, boy," old Mr. Hannity had barked at him just as he saddled his mule. "Her sons ain't right, and she ain't been right in decades," Elijah laughed at the time. Folks talked about curses, ghosts, skinwalkers, and everything in between. He thought it was just mountain superstition, but the closer he got to that abandoned homestead, the quieter the forest grew. No birds, no wind, not even the chatter of squirrels that usually skittered across the branches. The trees stood like silent witnesses, their bark gray as ash. Elijah swallowed. Too quiet. His mule stopped dead in the path, snorted hard, and backed away. "Ah, come on now," Elijah muttered, tugging the reins gently. "It's only a house." Thunder rumbled far behind the mountains. The mule bolted downhill. Full sprint. Elijah cursed as his bag ripped free and spilled the letters. He knelt, gathering them until he froze. One envelope sat apart from the others, dry despite the wet ground, its handwriting a frantic scratch. "For them boys, before she finds them again." Elijah blinked. Again? He turned it over. No return name, no seal. Just dirt and something darker smeared along the edge. He almost shoved it into his bag, but then a sound crept through the fog. A whimper. No, a voice. Small. Childlike. "Help, please, help." Elijah's heart kicked hard. He rose slowly, eyes scanning the fog. "Hello?" he called. "Who's out there?" Silence. Then the voice again, weak, desperate. She won't let us go." The fog curled thick around him until the path disappeared. Elijah's throat tightened. "Kid, where are you?" A hand grabbed his ankle. Elijah jerked back with a strangled yelp. A boy, maybe 12, maybe younger, it was impossible to tell in the dim light, crawled from the underbrush. His hair was uneven, hacked off in patches. His eyes were wide, rimmed red, darting around like he expected someone to rip him away at any second. "You gotta run," the boy whispered. "She's coming. She smells you." Elijah crouched. "Easy now." "Who's coming?" A branch snapped somewhere behind them. The boy's pupils blew wide with terror. No. She heard me talking." Fog parted like curtains. A tall, thin silhouette stood at the edge of the pines. Unmoving. Watching. Elijah's skin crawled. This must be some trick of the fog. Has to be. But then the shape tilted its head, slow, unnatural, like a crow studying roadkill. The boy grabbed Elijah's shirt with shaking fingers. "Don't look her in the eyes," he whispered. "She'll make you family." The silhouette stepped forward. The fog revealed the shape of a dress, long, black, decades out of fashion. Arms too long, hands hanging at her sides like dead weights. Elijah's breath hissed out between his teeth. Hey, he yelled, voice cracking. The widow didn't answer. She didn't need to, because the boy let out a choked sob, and Elijah saw something writhing beneath his shirt. Bruises shaped like fingers, nails dug so deep they left permanent crescent scars. "She keeps us," the boy said. "She keeps us even when we die." The widow lifted one long, bony finger and pointed directly at Elijah. The boy screamed, "Run!" Elijah grabbed him. He weighed nothing, like a bundle of sticks, and sprinted downhill. Branches clawed at him. The fog swirled like angry spirits. Behind them he heard the steady, deliberate footsteps of someone who did not need to hurry. Someone who owned the dark. Elijah didn't look back. The widow didn't breathe, didn't yell, didn't chase. But she followed, always one step behind the sound of Elijah's pounding heart. They reached the old stone bridge over Blackroot Creek. Elijah thundered across with the boy clinging to him. Halfway over, the child stiffened. "She won't cross running water," he gasped. "But she'll wait." "She always waits." Elijah glanced back. The widow stood at the far end of the bridge, hands folded neatly before her like she was posing for a funeral portrait. Her face was hidden by a black veil torn by time, but Elijah felt her stare, heavy as a shovel full of dirt. Lightning cracked overhead. The widow slowly lifted her veil. Elijah shielded the child and turned away, refusing to see what lay beneath. But the boy saw. He screamed so violently it didn't sound human. Elijah dragged him down the trail as thunder swallowed the wail. The widow's veil dropped back into place. She stepped toward the bridge. The creek surged, water roaring, and she stopped, watching, waiting, like she had all the time in the world. Hours later, Elijah reached the sheriff's cabin in Tanner's Hollow. Battered, breathless, the boy collapsed unconscious on his shoulder. Sheriff Mallory stared at them both like he'd seen ghosts. "Elijah Boone," he said slowly, "tell me you didn't go up that ridge." Elijah set the boy gently on a cot. "She was there," he breathed. "The widow. And her son, he's hurt, Sheriff. We need a doctor. And men. And—" Mallory slammed his palm on the table. "Her sons are dead, Elijah. All of them. Been dead for years." Elijah's throat tightened. No, I saw him. He talked. Mallory leaned close. "You saw what she wanted you to see. She keeps them boys in that house. Keeps 'em even now. Ain't nothing human left in 'em but the shape." Elijah stared at the sleeping boy, trembling. "That can't be. Sheriff, if he's dead, what the hell did I bring back?" Before Mallory could answer, the lantern flickered. The cabin windows rattled. Cold rolled through the floorboards. The sleeping boy sat upright, mechanical, stiff, and opened his eyes. Not human eyes. Black as a well. "Empty as a grave," he whispered, in a voice not his own. "You should have let me go back to her." The lantern shattered. Darkness swallowed the room, and from the woods outside, a woman's voice drifted through the night, low, sweet, calling. "Boys, SSSS, come home." The widow had crossed the creek, and she wanted her child back. She wanted Elijah, too. The lantern glass was still cracking on the floor when Elijah stumbled back, knocking over the sheriff's chair. The boy stood on the cot with his head lowered, hair hanging in front of his face like wet weeds, his thin frame trembling as if something inside him was trying to rearrange the bones. Sheriff Mallory moved first. "Don't touch him," Elijah yelled. Mallory ignored him. The sheriff was a war veteran, a man carved out of stubborn mountain grit, and he wasn't afraid of much. Not bears, not storms, not the kind of men who hid bottles in their boots. But the thing on his bed turned calmly toward him, and Mallory froze. Completely. Elijah's breath hitched as the boy's neck creaked with the sound of old rope stretching. When his head finally lifted, Elijah saw something behind those bottomless black eyes, something ancient, patient, and hungry. The boy spoke, but the words weren't shaped by a child's throat. "They were so good to me," he whispered. "My boys, my precious boys," Mallory swallowed. "Widow Harper, you ain't welcome here." The boy smiled. Slow and wide, too wide. "You can't keep a mother from her children." Elijah stumbled toward the window, peeking through the fogged glass. A figure stood between the pines, motionless, thin as a charred tree branch. The widow had crossed the creek, which meant the water wasn't enough to stop her anymore. Elijah turned back just as the boy jerked, limbs cracking like someone twisting a bundle of dry sticks. His jaw unhinged with a sudden snap, and a woman's voice flowed out. "You bring me back what's mine." Mallory drew his revolver and fired. The room exploded with sound. But the boy didn't fall. A dusty hole burned through his shirt. No blood, no wound, no reaction. He simply tilted his head and smiled wider. Mallory's voice cracked. "Oh, hell no." The boy lifted one hand. His fingers curved, crooked, like they were made to grab something delicate and snap it. Mallory grabbed Elijah's shoulder. "Out! Now!" He dragged Elijah toward the back door, just as every window in the cabin shattered at once. Wind blasted inside, carrying with it the swampy stench of rot and mold. Shadows slid across the floor like slick oil, pooling under the boy's bare feet. He stepped off the cot. The shadows moved with him. Mallory shoved Elijah through the back door and slammed it shut, wedging a board across the handle. "Run!" the sheriff snapped. "Get to the church." "But the boy." "That ain't no boy," Mallory barked. "Now move." The ground outside trembled. The entire cabin groaned like it was being squeezed. Mallory sprinted down the dirt path with Elijah at his heels. Branches whipped past. Fog curled like fingers. Behind them, something screamed from inside the cabin, high-pitched, layered, like several dead throats howling at once. Then, the widow's voice floated through the woods. "Come home, my sons." Elijah didn't want to look back. But he did. A figure crawled out of the broken cabin window. Not walking, crawling. Its limbs bent the wrong way, elbows backward, knees twisted, fingers digging into the ground like talons. The boy's body. But not the boy, Mallory cursed. She's using him like a damn puppet. The creature stopped crawling. Stood. Twisted its head at an inhuman angle, and sprinted toward them. Elijah felt his heart slam in his chest. "Faster!" he shouted. Mallory didn't answer. He didn't waste the breath. They tore through the hollow, boots digging into the damp dirt, lungs burning. The church roof appeared through the trees. Tin, rusted, leaning slightly crooked, but it didn't matter. It was the only place in Tanner's Hollow where the widow's presence had never been felt. They slammed through the church doors and barred them shut with a heavy oak beam. Mallory dropped to the floor, chest heaving. Elijah leaned against a pew, breath ragged. You said her sons were dead." "They are," Mallory said. "All 3 of them. Died slow after what she tried to force on him." He wiped sweat from his forehead. "She wanted more children, more boys. Kept 'em locked inside that house on the ridge. Made 'em do things brothers ain't meant to do. When the youngest got sick from it, she blamed the others. Beat 'em until their bones broke. Then she starved 'em. One by one." Elijah felt bile rise in his throat. "And after they died," Mallory looked toward the stained glass window. "She wouldn't bury them. Said they was still hers. Said she could keep 'em near if she loved 'em hard enough." Elijah shuddered. "What about her? She hung herself the winter after. But some folks, they die with teeth still in the world. And she ain't never stopped wanting her boys." A scratching sound dragged across the outside wall. Long, slow, deliberate. Elijah's blood iced. Mallory raised his gun. "She ain't getting in." The scratching moved to the front door. Then, a soft knock. 3 times. Elijah stepped back. Mallory kept the gun trained on the door. The boy's voice drifted through the wood. "Let me in, Mr. Mallory. Please, she's hurting me." Elijah shook his head. "That's not him." Mallory didn't blink. "I know." Silence. Then the widow spoke in a hushed croon. "Sheriff, I know what you did to my grave." Mallory's face drained of color. Elijah turned to him. "What did you do?" Mallory didn't answer. Outside, the widow's voice thickened, like mud filling a throat. "You dug me up, but you didn't burn me. You should have burned me, Sheriff." Elijah's heart thudded painfully. Mallory had unearthed her. Freed her, the widow spoke again. Calm, patient, deadly. "You give back my boy, and I'll leave the rest of your town in peace." Mallory whispered. "She's lying." Elijah swallowed. "What does she really want?" Mallory stared at the door. "She wants all her sons back." Elijah shivered. "She only had 3. Mallory slowly turned toward him. "She wants more." The church walls shook. Candles blew out. The beam across the doors cracked, and the widow whispered through every window at once. "I want you, Elijah Boone." The church doors buckled inward, dust sifting down from the rafters like falling ash. The widow's voice seeped through every crack in the old wood, smooth, cold, patient. "Elijah! Elijah Boone, you come out now." Elijah pressed himself against a pew, breath trembling. Sheriff Mallory aimed his revolver at the door, though both new bullets did nothing but anger her. The church lantern flickered. Then died. Darkness swallowed the sanctuary. Elijah whispered, "She knows my name." Mallory swallowed hard. "She knows everyone's name, but she only calls the ones she means to keep." A slow creaking sound echoed across the ceiling beams, like someone crawling overhead, dragging fingernails through the decades-old wood. Elijah choked. "She's on the roof." "No," Mallory whispered. "She's everywhere." A loud thump struck the front doors. Then another. The boy's voice cried out in a broken howl. "Mr. Mallory, don't let her take me. She's breaking me. She's breaking me. A-H-H." The scream cut off instantly. Mallory lowered his gun. "That ain't any boy," he muttered. "And that ain't any scream a living thing makes." The far window cracked. Hairline fractures spread across the stained glass like spiderwebs. A soft tapping followed. Light, rhythmic. Tap, 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 tap. But there were 3 windows, and all 3 were tapping at the same time. Elijah's stomach dropped. "Her sons." Mallory lifted a shaking hand. "She's calling them." The tapping stopped. Silence pressed in. Then, a whisper slithered across the entire church, as if spoken directly against Elijah's spine. "You should not have taken him from me." Elijah spun around and froze. The boy stood at the far end of the sanctuary, barefoot on the altar steps, skin pale as candle wax. His neck bent wrong. His mouth hung open, drooling dark, tar-like fluid that stained the wood floor. But his eyes, they weren't black anymore. They were empty holes. just gaping, dark sockets where eyes used to be. Elijah gagged. What did she do to him? Mallory whispered. She's making him one of hers. Emptying him out so she can fill him. Elijah stumbled backward. We have to help him. Can't help what's already dead. The boy twitched. His fingers bent backwards until they snapped. His jaw dislocated with a wet crack. Then he raised one trembling hand and pointed directly at Elijah. The widow's voice poured out of his ruined throat. Elijah Boone, you come to me. You belong on my ridge now. Elijah shook his head. No, why me? Mallory grabbed his arm. Because you carried him across the creek. You carried her boy. That marks you. What does that mean? Mallory didn't answer. He didn't have to. The boy lunged. Elijah screamed as the creature hurled itself across the pews, hands clawing, bones cracking like dead branches snapping underfoot. Mallory fired his revolver, 6 shots, each one puffing dust from the boy's shirt but accomplishing nothing. The creature landed on Elijah, pinning him against a pew. Its head jerked close, rotten breath flooding his nostrils. A hollow voice whispered, "You're one of us now." Elijah thrashed, pushing against the boy's bony shoulders, but his strength was unnatural, desperate. Fingers like cold iron wrapped around Elijah's throat. Mallory seized the boy from behind, dragging him back. With a roar, he smashed the creature's head against a stone pillar. The skull cracked like pottery. The body collapsed, limbs twitching. Elijah gasped, stumbling to his feet. Is he dead? Mallory didn't look at him. He's already dead. And he ain't staying down. As if on cue, the boy's broken skull knit itself closed, bones pulling together like sewing stitches. His head twisted around, mouth snapping open in a silent scream. Mallory grabbed Elijah. We're leaving, but she's outside, and if we stay, she'll get inside. He yanked Elijah toward the back of the church, pushing open a small storage door that led to an unused prayer room. Inside was a trapdoor beneath a rug, Mallory's personal escape route for emergencies. He kicked it open. A dirt tunnel sloped into darkness. Go, Mallory ordered. Elijah slid down without hesitation. Mallory followed, pulling the trapdoor shut above them just as the church doors exploded inward, followed by a woman's low, satisfied laughter. The tunnel smelled of wet soil and mold. Wooden beams held up the low ceiling, many cracked or splintering. Elijah crawled as fast as he could, dirt caking his hands. What now? He whispered. We get out past the cemetery. She can't step directly on consecrated ground, Mallory muttered, but she sure as hell can hover above it. A scraping sound traveled above them, across the church floorboards. Then, down the trapdoor steps, Elijah froze. She followed us. No, Mallory said. That's the boy. The scraping grew louder. Something claws at the trapdoor. Then it opened. A head lowered into the tunnel. Not the boy's. Someone older. Taller. A man, but lifeless. Face sunken, skin gray, lips pulled tight across dark gums. Elijah's voice broke. Oh God, Mallory whispered. That's Caleb. Her oldest. The dead man smiled, a long, slow smile that cracked his dry lips open. He dropped into the tunnel. Mallory shoved Elijah. Run! Elijah crawled faster, scraping his knees on sharp roots, hearing Caleb's corpse thudding after them on broken legs. His hands trembled. His breath got stuck in his throat. Then, light ahead, a small hatch leading out to the cemetery. Mallory burst through first, pulling Elijah up after him. They tumbled onto the grass between crooked gravestones. The trees bent overhead, the air cold as winter breath. Elijah looked back into the tunnel. Caleb Harper's dead face stared up from the darkness, grinning. Then the corpse began crawling upward with grotesque speed. Close it! Elijah cried. Mallory slammed the hatch shut. The wood bowed as Caleb slammed into it from below. And then, everything went silent. Elijah's lungs burned. Mallory put a hand on his shoulder. We ain't safe yet. Elijah looked toward the ridge, where a black silhouette stood atop the hill, veil fluttering. The widow's hands were outstretched, calling her sons, calling him. Mallory whispered, voice full of dread. She's marked you now, Elijah. No matter where you run, she'll come for you. And the only way to stop her, he swallowed hard, is to go back up that ridge and finish what she never did. The widow lifted her veil. Even from a distance, Elijah felt something cold reach into his chest and squeeze. She spoke without moving her lips, her voice inside his head. Come home, my boy. Elijah collapsed to his knees. Her voice wasn't just calling him, it was claiming him. The cemetery wind pressed against Elijah's face like cold breath, wet, metallic, almost tasting of rusted chains. The widow still stood on the ridge above them, veil fluttering like a torn flag, her silhouette rooted in the earth even as the fog swirled around her ankles. She didn't move. She didn't need to. Elijah couldn't pull his gaze away. He felt the weight of her stare inside his lungs, inside his ribs, like invisible fingers sliding between the bones. Something warm trickled from his nose. He wiped it. Blood. Mallory pulled him back. "Don't look at her too long. That's how she pulls you." Elijah blinked hard and turned away, breath shaking. "Why me? She had her sons. Why does she want someone new?" Mallory didn't answer immediately. He stared up the ridge, jaw tight, guitar string tense. "Elijah," he said finally, voice low, "the widow didn't want just boys. She wanted a legacy. She wanted a bloodline. One that answered only to her." Elijah's chest tightened. "I'm not her kin." Mallory's silence said otherwise. Elijah said louder, "Sheriff." "I'm not her kin." Mallory took a slow breath. Everyone in Tanner's Hollow is kin to each other if you go back far enough. And the Harpers, they mixed their blood into half the damn mountain. A chill ran down Elijah's spine. "You mean I'm related to her?" "Distant," Mallory murmured. "Very distant, but distant don't matter to the dead. She smells it. She knows it. And she'll claim it." Something thudded beneath the ground. Elijah jerked, stumbling back from a crooked gravestone. Mallory raised his gun uselessly. The soil around a nearby grave, an old stone with the name Micah Harper, 1870 to 1889, began to pulse upward in slow, sickening movements. "Elijah," Mallory whispered, "get behind me." The dirt cracked. A hand pushed through, but not like a hand reaching to escape. Like a hand reaching up to greet its mother. Another hand broke through the soil next to it, fingers long, flesh hanging in strips. Then a face, mouth stitched shut with black threads, eyes sunken but open. Elijah gagged. "Micah Harper," Mallory muttered. "Middle son." The corpse rose from the grave without disturbing the soil beneath it, weightless, jerking like a marionette hung by invisible strings. Its head tilted toward Elijah, lips trembling against the stitches. It wanted to speak. Elijah backed away. Why are they all after me?" "Because she wants you in the house," Mallory said. "Once you step across her threshold, you're hers." Micah opened his stitched mouth, threads snapping one by one in soft pops. A low moan seeped through. "Be, brother." Elijah froze. "Don't listen to it," Mallory shouted. Micah's head jerked violently. His jaw cracked open wider than it should, splitting skin. The voice that came out wasn't his. It was hers. "You belong with us now, Elijah. Come home before dawn." Something moved fast behind them. Caleb, the oldest son, burst from the tunnel hatch they thought they sealed, dirt flying from his shoulders as though he'd been thrown upward by the earth itself. His ribs jutted like broken fence posts, but he moved with animal speed. Mallory fired. Caleb didn't stop. The corpse slammed into the sheriff, sending them both crashing into the gravestones. Mallory's gun flew from his hands. Caleb pinned him with cracked, heavy limbs. "Elijah, run!" Mallory roared. Elijah stepped backward as Micah walked toward him, slow, trembling, like a puppet dragged through water. "Come home," Micah whispered. "Ma's waitin'." Something pulled at Elijah's wrist. He looked down. A small, pale hand gripped him, belonging to the young boy whose body the widow had first borrowed. His neck was broken, dangling loose, his head tilting sideways. "Please, don't make her punish us anymore," the boy wheezed. Elijah ripped free, stumbling as all three corpses encircled him. Caleb dragging Mallory down, Micah dripping grave soil, the young boy twitching like he was being forced forward. Elijah screamed. Something inside him snapped. He bolted. He didn't think, didn't choose. His legs simply carried him toward the only place the widow wanted him to go. Up the ridge. The widow's silhouette straightened. Her arms lifted. Her veil shivered like it was smiling beneath the wind. Footsteps pounded behind him. Too many, too fast, the sound of 3 dead brothers closing in. The ridge path spiraled upward. Trees pressed in around him, their trunks black like burned-out chimneys. The air thickened, colder with every step, as if he were climbing into a tomb. Halfway up, Elijah stumbled on something buried in the leaves. He looked down. A bone. Not animal. Human. A femur. Cracked and sharpened. A scream tore from behind him. Mallory. Elijah spun and glimpsed the sheriff fighting Caleb's corpse, trying to wriggle free. Mallory's voice was raw, guttural. "Elijah! Don't go up there. Don't let her take you." Elijah's body froze, but his feet did not. They moved on their own. He screamed against it, grabbing a tree trunk, trying to stop himself. But an invisible force pulled him forward, dragging him like a hooked fish. The widow whispered in his ear, though she hadn't moved her lips. "That's it, my boy. Come home." Elijah clawed at the dirt, boots skidding, fingers tearing on rocks, but the pull only grew stronger. Finally, he reached the top of the ridge. The widow stood before the old Harper house, its roof sagging, windows black holes, porch boards creaking like someone breathing beneath them. She spread her arms. "This is where you belong," Elijah screamed, voice breaking. "No," but his body stepped forward. 1 foot crossed the threshold of the widow's rotting porch, and everything changed. Wind stopped. Fog froze in place. His bones felt like they'd been dipped into ice. The widow lowered her veil. Elijah saw her face, and wished he hadn't. Her features were half beautiful, half rotted, one eye clouded, the other burning with a hungry, motherly madness. Her skin hung loose in places, stretched too tight in others. Her smile was cracked open like a wound. She reached for him. "Elijah, my new son." Something snapped violently behind them. A gunshot. A scream. Mallory had reached the ridge, but the widow didn't turn. She whispered, "Once you step inside, you'll never leave again." Elijah felt the force pulling him toward the open doorway of the house, the darkness inside moving like it was alive, reaching for him. Mallory shouted, voice shredded, "Elijah! Don't step in that house. If you do, she'll keep you forever." Elijah leaned back with every ounce of strength left. The widow's cold fingers touched his cheek, and he began to fall forward into the darkness of the house. Elijah's body tipped forward, pulled like a hooked animal toward the Harper house doorway. The darkness inside wasn't still. It breathed, expanding then shrinking, as if lungs were hidden in the walls. The widow's cold hand rested on his cheek, her cracked smile stretching wider. "Come inside, Elijah. Your brothers are waiting." Elijah fought the pull, boots scraping the porch. His fingers clawed at the wood, splinters driving under his nails. Stop," he gasped. The widow's voice softened into a mother's lullaby. "Hush now. All sons fight before they accept me." Mallory's desperation cut through the night. "Elijah!" "Don't look at her. Look at M.E." The sheriff sprinted toward the porch, his face bloodied, shirt torn, Caleb's claw marks down his back. Elijah reached toward him. The widow snapped her fingers once. Mallory's body seized mid-stride, like the world froze around him. His head jerked unnaturally to the side. His mouth opened in a silent scream. The widow didn't even glance back. "Your sheriff dug me up," she murmured to Elijah. "He broke the peace. He gave me light again." Her veil fluttered though there was no wind. "And you gave me hope." A violent tremor rolled through Elijah's body. His breath stuttered. His muscles locked. He was losing to her. He felt his foot cross the threshold. 1 inch, then 2. Something cold and slimy wrapped around his ankle inside the darkness. Elijah screamed. The widow smiled proudly, like a mother watching a newborn take its first breath. "That's it, Elijah. They've found you." Mallory broke free with a guttural roar and flung himself onto the porch. He tackled Elijah backward, slamming him into the railing. Elijah collapsed onto the boards, gasping. The widow's face twisted with rage. Not loud, not screaming, just a slow tightening of her jaw that made the air itself groan. "You do not touch my son." She raised her hand. Every window in the house shattered outward. Mallory and Elijah covered their faces as glass rained like a storm. The trees bent backward as if blown by an invisible explosion. Then the house began to move. The floorboards shifted under Elijah. The porch seemed to breathe. The doorway widened like a hungry mouth. Mallory dragged Elijah toward the steps. "Elijah, run! Run now!" But the house didn't let him. Hands burst from the dark doorway. Dozens of hands, gray, veined, skeletal, each one grabbing Elijah's legs, his ankles, his wrists, his shirt. Elijah shrieked as the hands pulled in every direction. "They're not alive," Mallory yelled, trying to rip one hand off Elijah's arm. "They're not alive. They're just what she made." But the hands tightened, pulling harder. Elijah was dragged toward the doorway. The widow watched with serene satisfaction. "He's coming home," she whispered. Mallory snapped a porch board loose and used it as a club, smashing the grasping hands. Bones splintered. Arms broke off clean like rotten branches. Elijah tore free and stumbled back, chest heaving. The widow didn't move, but the house did. Wooden beams twisted into the shapes of ribs, plaster cracked into veins. The doorway pulsed. The whole home shifted like a living beast stretching awake after a long sleep. "Elijah," Mallory breathed. "The house ain't a house anymore." A voice whispered from behind the broken doorway. A boy's voice. "Youngest son, you came back." Another joined it. A deeper, teenage voice. "Middle son, Ma said you might." Then a third. Old, hollow, grave thick. "Caleb, you're one of us now." Their 3 silhouettes stepped into view inside the house. Not fully visible, just shadows shifting wrong under the flickering walls. The widow extended her arms. "Boys, bring him in." Mallory grabbed Elijah. "Run!" But the house exploded forward, not just the sons. The house itself lurched, stretching, boards ripping from their nails, stairs bending like fingers reaching to grab them. The porch split open, revealing an interior that looked like a gullet. Fleshy, wet, pulsing. Elijah screamed. Mallory shoved him down the ridge path. Elijah, G.O. Mallory turned, facing the widow, lifting his broken porch board like a weapon. You ain't taking him. The widow lowered her veil. You owe me, Sheriff Mallory. For digging me up, for waking me, for letting me smell blood again. I'll burn you, he gasped. I swear I'll burn what's left of you. She tilted her head lovingly. My sons will show you fire. The three silhouettes rushed out of the house. Caleb first, tall, broken-limbed, fast. Micah next, whispering through torn stitches. And the youngest crawling like a spider. Mallory stood his ground. Elijah turned back, horrified. No, Sheriff! Mallory shoved Elijah with his last strength. Run, boy. If you look back, you're lost, the widow whispered softly. Take him, sons. The three corpses leapt. Mallory vanished beneath them. Elijah screamed and ran, sprinting down the ridge path, branches whipping his face, mud flying beneath him, tears blinding him. Behind him, he heard bones cracking, flesh tearing, wet feeding. Mallory never screamed. He didn't get the chance. The widow called after Elijah, her voice drifting like a lullaby over the trees. You can't run from your blood, Elijah Boone. You can't run from me. The forest grew darker as he fled. Darker than night. Darker than the truth he was about to learn. Because the widow hadn't just chosen him. She had known him, long before he ever reached Hollow Ridge. Elijah didn't remember half the run down Hollow Ridge. He only remembered fear. Branches slashing his face. Stones rolling under his boots. A scream lodged so deep in his throat it shredded him with every breath. The forest moved around him, shifting, bending, hurting him. Not away, not free, but somewhere the widow wanted him to go. He stumbled into a clearing so abruptly he nearly collapsed. Moonlight cut through the treetops in cold, jagged beams. And in the center of the clearing, an old, dried-up well stood alone. It shouldn't have been there. It wasn't there on any map. It wasn't on the sheriff's land records. But Elijah knew it the moment he saw it. The widow's well, the place where her body had been dumped. The place Mallory had dug up months ago. He staggered toward it, panting, staring at the rope hanging over the rotted stones. A bucket swung slowly, but not from wind. Something deep below had nudged. Elijah didn't remember half the run down Hollow Ridge. He only remembered fear, branches slashing his face, stones rolling under his boots. A scream lodged so deep in his throat it shredded him with every breath. The forest moved around him, shifting, bending, hurting him. Not away, not free, but somewhere the widow wanted him to go. He stumbled into a clearing so abruptly he nearly collapsed. Moonlight cut through the treetops in cold, jagged beams. And in the center of the clearing, an old, dried-up well stood alone. It shouldn't have been there. It wasn't there on any map. It wasn't on the sheriff's land records. But Elijah knew it the moment he saw it. The widow's well, the place where her body had been dumped. The place Mallory had dug up months ago. He staggered toward it, panting, staring at the rope hanging over the rotted stones. A bucket swung slowly, but not from wind. Something deep below had nudged it. Tap, tap, tap. Elijah froze. A small, childlike voice echoed up from the darkness. Help me, please. Elijah backed away. No. I know this trick. I'm not falling for it. The voice whimpered. She hurts us if we don't call for you. His heart clenched. It sounded like the youngest boy, but the widow could mimic any voice. He knew that now. He turned away and slammed directly into someone. His scream ripped out before he even looked up. The figure standing in front of him wasn't one of the sons. It was a man, tall, mid-40s, thick beard, dark coat soaked with rain. He knew that face. He'd seen it once before in an old photograph in the sheriff's office. Boone, Elijah whispered. The man gave a faint, sad smile. You finally made it back. Elijah stepped backward. You're dead. Sheriff Mallory said your whole family. Before he finished, the man lifted a hand and shook his head. Dead ain't the same thing as gone. Elijah staggered farther from him. You can't be real. Boone stepped into a sliver of moonlight. Oh, I'm real enough to tell you what the widow won't. A distant sound rose behind Elijah, the creaking splitting of wood. The house was moving, crawling through the trees, looking for him. Boone motioned toward the well. She's hunting you now. You don't have long, so listen close. Elijah's chest heaved. She killed your sons, Elijah said through clenched teeth. Used them. Twisted them. Boone laughed once, a low, bitter sound. She didn't kill my boys. She bore them. Elijah's breath caught. What do you mean? Boone stepped closer. My wife died in childbirth. All 3 times. The widow came to me afterwards. Whispered to me that the land would give me sons if I offered loyalty. Elijah shook his head violently. No, that's... you're saying. I'm saying, Boone growled, that the widow has been making sons since the ridge was first settled. And every generation she chooses a new father. Elijah felt the world tilt beneath him. Boone's eyes gleamed. She doesn't need men to love her. She only needs their blood. Their line. Their strength. Elijah stumbled back. No. Sheriff Mallory said I was nothing to her. Just a stranger who wandered in. Boone stepped close enough. Elijah could smell the dirt still clinging to him. You ever wonder why you felt pulled here? Why you couldn't leave Hollow Ridge? Why the forest wouldn't let you? Elijah's heart hammered. No. Boy, Boone whispered, look at your reflection. Elijah instinctively looked down into the well. A sliver of moonlight reflecting off the water far below. He saw his own face, but beneath his eyes, faintly glowing. The same black veins Caleb had. The same dark mark the youngest had shown him. The same rot that had grown on Boone's sons. No. Elijah clawed at his skin as if he could rip the mark off. Boone's voice softened. You've been hers since the day you were born. Your mother fled Hollow Ridge to save you. But blood don't break. Blood calls home. Elijah shook, trembling violently. I'm not her son. I'm not hers. Boone glanced toward the tree line. She's coming. And she'll finish what she started. Once she takes you, she'll make a new son. A stronger one. A perfect one. Elijah screamed into the night. I'm not one of them. A woman's voice drifted behind him. Soft, loving, cold. Oh, Elijah, you always were. The widow stepped from the shadows. Her feet didn't touch the ground. Her veil fluttered, though the air was still. Her hands hung open, like she was ready to cradle something fragile. Boone bowed his head as if she were a queen. Elijah stumbled back, tears streaming, shaking violently. No, the widow whispered through her cracked smile. My son, come home. Elijah turned and ran. Through branches, through mud, through the night choking around him. He didn't stop. He didn't breathe. He didn't look back, but her voice followed him, soft and warm. You can run, Elijah, but blood always remembers. The trees shifted, guiding him toward the ridge, toward the house, toward the sons, toward the ritual unfinished, because the widow had chosen him long ago, and she was done waiting. Elijah didn't run from Hollow Ridge. He ran straight into it. The forest narrowed around him like a throat closing. Branches clawed his arms. Roots grabbed his ankles. The air thickened with dirt and rot until every breath tasted like something dead. Behind him, the widow's voice echoed like a hymn sung in a cavern. Elijah, you're almost ready. He covered his ears. Get out of my head. But she wasn't in his head. She was in his blood. Every step he took, his vision flickered. Dark streaks pulsing beneath his skin, spreading from his collarbone to his ribs. They crawled like vines, like veins being rewritten. The widow wasn't chasing him. She was changing him. He reached an old hunting cabin, half collapsed, door hanging by a nail. He crashed inside, barred the door with a broken beam, and stumbled across the dusty floor. His hands shook uncontrollably. He grabbed an old shard of mirror from the ground. When he raised it, his breath froze. His eyes, the pupils stretched into thin vertical slits. A black ring circled the iris like burned ink. His veins pulsed obsidian. No, please. The mirror cracked in his grip. A voice whispered behind him. You're becoming what you were meant to be. Elijah spun. But no one was there. Only shadows, moving wrong, crawling up the walls like living stains. He bolted to the cabin's back window, trying to pry it open. A hand slammed over his mouth from behind. He thrashed. But the grip wasn't inhuman. It was desperate. Human. Alive. Elijah turned and saw Mallory's deputy, Elias Crow, bloodied. Terrified, pale as bone. Boone, he gasped. I've been looking for you. You gotta listen. You're not safe. Elijah grabbed him by the coat. She's turning me into one of them. Tell me how to stop it. Crow's lips trembled. You can't stop it. But you can break it. How? Crow swallowed hard. You kill her. Elijah let go. His breath shook. I can't even hurt her. She threw Mallory like a rag doll. Crow cut him off with a shaky hand. The widow ain't just a spirit. She ain't a ghost. She's something older. Something bound to a body. That's why she keeps making sons. She needs a vessel. A body that won't rot. Elijah's heart pounded. A vessel like you, Crow whispered. The cabin creaked. Dust fell from the rafters. Crow's face went white. Oh God, she's here. A slow, gentle knock at the cabin door. 3 taps, like a mother knocking on a child's bedroom. Elijah, open the door, sweet boy. Elijah pressed his back to the wall. Crow whispered, don't answer her. Don't look at her. The widow knocked again. Tap, tap, tap. The door beam began to bend. Wood splintered. Nails screeched from the frame. Crow grabbed Elijah's arm. We gotta go. Through the window now. Elijah smashed the window with his elbow. They climbed out. A pale hand slid through the cabin door crack behind them. Her fingers stretched impossibly long, bones snapping, skin splitting, reaching like a spider's legs. Crow and Elijah ran. The forest exploded with movement. Branches whipped violently outward. The trees leaned. The ground trembled. She wasn't chasing them. She was hurting them again. Crow tripped on a root, but Elijah caught him and dragged him forward. A child's giggle echoed through the woods. Then another. Then a third. The sons. Crow's voice broke. Elijah, they're flanking us left and right. A blur shot between the trees. Caleb, the tallest. Bones sticking through skin, moving fast as a starving animal. To the right, Micah kept pace, whispering on every exhale. And behind them, crawling sideways like an insect, the youngest clicked his teeth. Elijah's lungs burned. His pulse pounded. Crow grabbed Elijah's face mid-run. Listen to me. There's one place they won't follow you. Where? The church. Elijah froze mid-stride. Mallory said it was too dangerous. No, Crow gasped. It's the only place she can't step inside unless you invite her. Elijah's head whipped toward the ridge. The old church sat crooked on the hill. Roof collapsing. Cross tilted. Windows black. A place even the forest avoided. A place the widow had whispered about. A place she feared. Crow dragged him toward it. Elijah, move! They sprinted through the clearing up the hill. The sons followed just behind, never catching, never falling back, hurting, pushing him, guiding him, steering him toward the church like a sacrifice, walking willingly. Crow lunged and shoved Elijah through the church doorway first. Elijah stumbled across the threshold and fell to the old wooden floor. Crow burst in after him and slammed the heavy door shut. The sons crashed into it from the outside, snarling, clawing, but they didn't cross. They couldn't. Their rotting fingers scratched helplessly against the frame. Crow backed away from the door, panting hard, clutching his side. See? They can't. He froze. Elijah looked at him, Crow's face drained of all color. Elijah, don't turn around. Elijah's blood ran cold. Why? Crow's throat tightened. She's already inside. Slowly. Elijah turned, and standing inside the dark church behind the altar, her veil untouched, her dress flowing like smoke, the widow smiled. I didn't need an invitation from you, my boy. Elijah's knees buckled. I only needed one from the man who betrayed Mallory. Crow's breath hitched. No, I didn't. The widow lifted a delicate hand toward him. You opened the church door the night Mallory dug me up. You broke the sanctuary. You let me in. Crow began to choke. Black veins crawled up his neck. His eyes rolled back. Elijah grabbed him, screaming, Stop! Stop it! But the widow's voice was soft and sweet. Hush, Elijah. I only need one son. Crow collapsed. Silent. Still, the church trembled. The floorboards cracked. Dust fell from the rafters. Candles snuffed out on their own. The widow drifted toward Elijah, her feet never touching the ground. You've run long enough. Her hands cupped his cheeks. Her touch was ice. You are ready to become. Elijah's vision blurred. His knees hit the floor. The black veins surged across his chest like wildfire. His heart hammered, slowed, stopped, then started again. Different, wrong. The widow leaned close to his ear. My perfect son. Elijah's scream shook the entire church, and the forest outside went silent. The church floor vibrated beneath Elijah as the black veins carved across his skin. His fingernails split. His spine arched. His vision pulsed like two worlds were trying to fit inside one skull. The widow stood over him, veil lifted just enough to show the cracked porcelain smile beneath. You feel it, don't you? She whispered. The bones changing. The blood remembering. Elijah gasped. Stop, please. She knelt. placing her cold forehead against his. "Hush, my boy. Don't fight the shape you were born to fill." His body convulsed violently. His hands twisted at the wrists. A sharp snap echoed inside him like a branch breaking. He screamed so loud dust fell from the rafters. The widow stroked his hair lovingly. "All my sons screamed at the beginning. Even Caleb. Even the little one. Pain is just the doorway." Elijah pushed backward with the last strength in him. "I'm not your son." The widow rose slowly, her silhouette stretching taller, darker, swallowing the altar candlelight. "But you are," she whispered. "You always were." The church walls groaned, deep, ancient wood cracking like ribs splitting open. Outside, the sons clawed at the door, faster, harder, frenzy rising like animals sensing blood. Elijah forced himself onto his knees. His head spun. His heartbeat felt wrong. Not 2 beats, but 3. He grabbed the edge of the pew to stand. His reflection glinted in a broken stained glass shard on the floor. What he saw made him fall silent. His eyes weren't human anymore. The marks had spread to his neck, his jaw, his lips. His teeth had sharpened. He looked like them. He looked like Boone's boys. Like her boys. He gagged and smashed the shard away. The widow drifted toward him. "You're almost perfect. Almost whole." He stumbled back toward the altar. "Why me?" he rasped. "Out of everyone, why me?" The widow tilted her head in a slow, loving motion. "Because you were the one who ran. And only the strongest sons try to flee their mother." Her hands opened. "And only the strongest return." Elijah shook with rage. "I didn't return. I was dragged here." The widow's smile cracked wider. "That's what returning is." Another convulsion tore through him. He dropped to the floor, clutching his chest. Something beneath his ribcage shifted. A bone pushed outward beneath the skin, then slid back. His scream echoed through the rafters. The widow reached toward him. "Let it finish. Then, you will walk beside me forever." Elijah's mind spiraled. Pain tore through his skull like metal scraping metal. But through the agony, one thought cut clear. Mallory. His last words. "If you look back, you're lost." Elijah forced breath through shaking lungs. He wouldn't become a monster. He wouldn't become a vessel. He wouldn't become her. Elijah's hand slid behind him and found the old incense stand. Iron, rusted, heavy. The widow leaned close. "My beautiful son." Elijah swung it with every shred of strength he had left. The iron smashed into her jaw with a sickening crack. Her head snapped sideways, veil tearing, porcelain face fracturing. A sound tore from her throat. Not a scream, but the hiss of something ancient and buried too long. The church went black. Every window shattered at once. Wind exploded inward. Candles extinguished. The sons outside shrieked in unison. The widow turned back to Elijah slowly. Her porcelain mask was broken open on one side. Underneath, black flesh, teeth, eyes that blinked sideways like an insect. She hissed, voice layered with something inhuman. "You strike your mother?" Elijah backed toward the altar. "You're not my mother." The widow glided forward. "Elijah, when your real mother bled out bringing you into this world, I was the one who carried you from her body." Elijah froze. "What?" "I held you first," she whispered. He shook violently. "No, you're lying." The widow touched his cheek. "I whispered your name the moment your lungs filled with air. My name. Elijah Boone." His heart stopped. Boone. Boone. His father's name. The man in the clearing. The man who bowed to her. His whole life. His mother had told him his father was nobody. Had told him they fled for safety, not for blood. Everything crashed into place. He was part of the ridge. Part of her. Part of the ritual. The widow opened her arms. "Come back to the beginning, Elijah." His veins pulsed black. The transformation surged again. Harder. Faster. Faster than before. He couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Couldn't. But he still had one thing. Choice. With a raw scream, Elijah grabbed the iron cross mounted above the altar, yanking until the rotted wood cracked. He held it like a spear. The widow whispered, "Don't do this." He charged. The iron cross plunged into her chest, driving through bone, rot, and something alive that squirmed beneath her flesh. The widow shrieked. A sound that split the church in half like lightning. Her body convulsed, arms flailing, veil ripping, porcelain shattering to reveal the monstrous shape underneath. The sons outside let out a final, gut-wrenching howl. Then silence. Her black blood spilled across the floor, steaming, hissing, burning through the boards. She reached for Elijah, weak, trembling. "My son." Elijah stepped back. "You're not my mother." The widow collapsed, body folding like wet cloth, melting into tar that seeps through the church cracks. The walls groaned. Then the entire structure shook violently. The church wasn't just collapsing. It was dying. Elijah staggered to the doorway. The sons' bodies lay in the grass outside, lifeless, empty, unmoving. Whatever bound them was gone. The forest was still. The night was silent. It was over. Elijah fell to his knees at the edge of the hill. The black veins on his body began to fade. His teeth dulled. His heartbeat steadied. The change had stopped. He wasn't becoming anymore. He was himself. For the first time since arriving in Hollow Ridge, he could breathe. His eyes filled with tears. Mallory, Crow. I'm sorry. Light pushed through the horizon. Distant birds began to sing. Elijah stood on shaking legs and walked away from Hollow Ridge. Not running, not chased, just walking. Behind him, the old church collapsed in a final groan, sinking into the soil. Hollow Ridge consumed what remained of the widow, and Elijah Boone didn't look back. He never returned to Appalachia. Not once. Not ever. But at night, when the wind moved a certain way, he sometimes heard a faint lullaby in the darkness. Soft, loving, cold, a voice that should have died. Elijah, my son. Slow, heavy breathing in the dark. A torn photograph drifts across the floor. A voice speaks calmly, low, like warning the viewer just before the lights go out. Some stories end, but what they leave behind doesn't. A faint knocking echoes 3 times. If you made it this far, you're one of the few who survived the night. Footsteps approach slowly. Subscribe before whatever followed you from this story catches up. The footsteps stop right behind the viewer. A whisper in the ear. We'll meet again in the next Forgotten Remain. A metal door slams shut. Cut to black.